You mentioned intellectual property, and that's obviously one of the issues that you have when you're outsourcing more, is that you have these questions of who retains the property, how much information do you share. Because you're outsourcing more and because partnering is such an integral part of the industry today, do you see your relationships changing with your partners in terms of information sharing, in terms of opening up more in regards to intellectual property?
We're very careful about how we engage with partners because of the intellectual property issues that we might have to deal with. So we're pretty careful about it. I would say to you, we engage at a scientific level very effectively. The area where we have to be cautious is around information technology and systems, because our systems tend to run in an integrated manner in our research and development areas. So if you have access to part of it, you actually have access to a lot of it. And when we partner with certain kinds of companies, we've got to figure out how we build firewalls around things that allow what needs to be exchanged without putting at risk, a whole bunch of other things that could otherwise be unrelated. And, I think that's, I mean, certain developing countries are getting better at understanding this than others. So depending on who you're partnering with and where you are, I think you just have to be very, cautious around how you do it. But I think it's quite doable. But if you've seen one, you've seen one. I don't think there's a standard way that you do it the same way with everybody.
Right. And you've been making a big push into China, of course, and the company has a commitment to China, which, outsourcing and working overseas or working in Asia is, it's a hot button issue because there are a lot of smaller issues surrounding that. What do you tell people here in the U.S. or in Europe when you say, well, we're, as a company, we'd like to move into China much more, but we also want to make a commitment, especially to manufacturing, especially to research and development in the U.S., in Europe. How do you balance all those things?
Yeah, well, I think China's a good example of where the business and the activity that we're building there is really kind of in China for China. And while we have expanded our manufacturing there to provide some regional support for some of the surrounding countries like Vietnam, Malaysia, the fact is that probably thinking about outsourcing hasn't been to China. It's our business investment there. We've put a research and development facility there, but it's 60 or 70 people. It's not 700. We haven't kind of said, let's move everything there. We've said, let's put some translational research in oncology there because there's a very valid reason to do that. I think when I look at some of the other areas where we are outsourcing, the message internally, to answer your question, is we need to be able to create efficiencies where we can, so that we can, if there are efficiencies to be created and that frees up some resources, some money and some people, we can reallocate them to areas of higher value return for our business. So the two things that drive value in our business are research and development and our commercial organization and marketing and sales. So when I look at the infrastructure support areas that support those two areas, if we can run our finance systems more efficiently by using an outsourced provider in India, say, or we can run our HR system more efficiently by having some of it handled in Eastern Europe, then we have to tell people that's a more efficient way for us to operate our business. But it's not core. Core is research and development, which is why I said to you before, we're very cautious around that. Core is marketing and sales, and we stay very focused on that.
So do you see then maybe part of being a global organization these days is being very savvy regionally? Because I've heard from a lot of people that because of concerns about the global supply chain, because of concerns about the risk of that supply chain being interrupted at all, that they're actually focusing more regionally. For example, maybe a manufacturer based in the U.S. And making products for the U.S. market would want to contract out most of that work in the U.S. Or Europe or Asia. Is that essentially what you're saying about your operations in China?
I think it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of an approach. There happens to be an opportunity in China. It tends to be a higher volume, lower price market on average, and the ability of the Chinese to, our cost of operating in China is much lower when you just do it on a cost per pill compared to, say, Sweden or the UK. So, but we don't expect to take the product that we're making in China and export it back to Sweden or the UK. We're looking to make those areas more efficient too. So, excuse me. So I think there are some regional opportunities. You have to take advantage of local regional activity, recognizing that you've got a global view of the world. But my comments within our own organization and to regulators are we develop our drugs globally. Our clinical development programs now really run in Asia as well as in the developed countries in Western Europe and the U.S. But we market products and get them approved locally. And local regulations and how things operate are very differently. And you've got to be able to bridge the two things. And that includes manufacturing, packaging, and other things as well.